Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Season 6, Episode 5 of The Green Agenda. My name is Kayla Shannon. I am your host and a proud Spelman alumna. First and foremost, as always, y'all know we have to thank our sponsors, the Climate Action Campaign and the Environmental Defense Fund, for everything that they do to make this show possible. Today, y'all, I'm so excited. I am so excited. So for those of you who do not know, the month of May is Asthma Awareness Month. That's and right. We are going to be getting into this conversation talking about the highly controversial data centers. And who better to have here to have this conversation than the one, the only KeShaun Pearson, okay? For this episode, we have KeShaun here from the Memphis Community Against Pollution, who has been actively resisting XAI in his hometown, Memphis, Tennessee, and honestly doing a lot more than that, all right? Like that just scratches the surface of everything you have been doing right there in your hometown. So we will be having conversation today talking about community benefits, holding polluters accountable, and highlighting successful examples and strategies for communities to negotiate better terms. But before we get into it, some folks may not know. I don't know how they wouldn't know, but some folks may not know who you are. So if no one has ever heard of you, if they haven't heard of your brother, because you got to plug them in. That's right, they got to know it's a dynamic duo. You're not operating just by yourself. Give them a little bit of light about who you are, what you do, who your brother is, what he does, and what you all have been doing together, not just in coming up against Elon Musk and all of that, right? But what's going on in Memphis in general.
Yeah. So if they don't know who I am, that makes perfect sense, okay? I'm not Michael Jackson. But I'm a part of a great legacy of folks who have been fighting for justice in the city of Memphis. And I got to start with my family because the matriarchs of my family, both my grandmothers, we lost them to cancer because they lived in 38109 and had breathed so much of the pollution. And so it did lead to chronic illnesses and cancers. And so those are the two pillars who helped to shape my experience.
What did you call your grandmas? I'm curious.
Grandma Pearson and Grandma Gwen.
Okay, shout out grandmas.
Yeah, love them eternally. And they were instrumental in helping to grow up my entire family, my brothers, my mother and my father at the same time, right? We had a very young family. My parents had me when they were 15 and 16 years old.
Wow.
And so those were the huge pillars. And then my parents are now Dr. Kimberly Owens Pearson.
Come on, doctor.
And Reverend Jason C. Pearson.
Come on, Rev.
Got his master's in divinity from Howard Divinity School right down the road.
Ain't you?
Yeah.
Come on, keep going. Keep going through the legacy.
So then you get to our generation, which is myself as the oldest. I do all the environmental justice work on the Memphis Community Against Pollution side, but we started this work together. And so my brother, myself, and our community founded Memphis Community Against the Pipeline, and we defeated that pipeline in like 9 months, one of the shortest pipeline fights in history.
Clack that.
And then became Memphis Community Against Pollution because we saw so many other fissures in our environmental protections. The air, right? We had focused on the water with the pipeline, but we realized that we had, so many other issues because of what we were breathing in the air. And so we started Memphis Community Against Pollution, MCAP, and then I took the helm once my brother, Justin J. Pearson, became Representative Justin J. Pearson for Tennessee District 86. And so in our dynamic, my brother has been able to really elevate the issues of the proliferation of data centers and their environmental harms from a legislative lens. And the work that I've been able to hold is the work of environmental protections and community engagement and involvement from the grassroots lens.
Talk about double for your trouble. All right. I just love that, especially in starting the context. First of all, I always love to start our episodes just hearing a little bit more about like the context that our folks are coming from, right? Like that our guests, what journey has brought them here, like what is your origin story, right? Your hero origin story. But also to hear the legacy, right? I always appreciate when we have the opportunity to talk more about the family unit, right? And what opportunities have been created right there in the home, because the home is so important, right?
Key.
And so how critical that was, not only just in the development. I knew y'all came from good stock.
Come on.
I knew y'all came from good stock. That makes good sense, okay?
Yeah.
So now that we've had a little bit of context about you and your story and what's brought you here, could you provide just greater context? All right, now we know who KeShaun and Justin are. Now we understand where you all come from, where you come from. Tell us a little bit more about the context and the landscape, the political landscape of what's happening in Memphis right now.
Yeah. It is the center of a Confederate project. Truthfully, we are being occupied by federal agents at the same time as Elon Musk is building out a project that is bringing so much pollution that it is now the largest emitter of PM 2.5 and toxic pollutants in our entire region. And they've done this all without the right permits, all without community engagement or significant involvement. And in addition to that, we have an administration and a Supreme Court that has allowed for the breaking up of political power in Shelby County and in Memphis by the state legislature. And this has just happened in the last couple of weeks. And so we are seeing a trifecta of different powers being wielded against the people that were supposed to be used for the people. And more specifically, being used against black people and black political power. And that is something that I'm vehemently against. My family has continued to fight for, and myself have continued to put ourselves on the line because we believe that black people deserve representation, that we shouldn't be over-policed. And we also believe that we should have our human right, which is clean air, clean water, and a healthy environment. Right?
The most basic.
We deserve, just like everybody else, that exact same bottom line. We deserve those basic necessities.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, because right now Memphis is being called sort of a cautionary tale, right? Because what's happening in Memphis in a lot of ways is representative of what our current climate and all of the intersections that communities, folks in the electorate, our youth, our families are facing across the country, right? This intersection not only of just like the political power and what's happening with our federal administration and how that has permeated and been perpetuated all the way down throughout political pipelines, but beyond that, also what's happening with data centers, what's happening with AI, how AI is influencing the landscape of our economy in a major way, right? In ways that we've never seen before in a lot of ways, like the risk that it's causing. And then, of course, what all of this means for health outcomes.
That's right.
What all of this means for our environment, right? And so Memphis is being called a cautionary tale. So if you could go back to the day before XAI was announced and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
One thing would be extremely difficult. But
you got a list. Okay.
If I had
you could give me top two.
Right. If I had infinite resources, right, what I would do is get together the decision makers. I would get together the mayors in Memphis. I would get together the economic decision makers at the Greater Memphis Chamber. I would get all these folks together, and I would bring together the community to have a very in-depth conversation. And I would bring in the folks who have been covering what Elon Musk has done in California, what Elon Musk has done in Texas, and how he continues to skirt past what we know are environmental protections that keep us safe, but also meaningful community engagements. And so I would bring up them all together, have that conversation, and then introduce them to Karen Howe. Karen Howe is the author of Empire of AI and has such a depth of understanding about even why XAI was founded, because Elon Musk wasn't given the CEO position at OpenAI, right? And the depths of just how dangerous and how detrimental the ecosystem of extraction that AI has engulfed our world in, because the global south is suffering to continue to hoist up this AI infrastructure, and we are also suffering at the same time.
It will not sustain itself.
It's not. It is completely unsustainable because it requires so much human degradation in order for it to exist, and it doesn't. It's not. There is no financial viability to it. Right? They're burning through billions of dollars a month, and that's just not sustainable economic product. And so, if there was any other product at market doing the same thing, it would be shut down. But they are continue to work with different governments and subsets of governments and adjacent quasi-government groups in order to continue to push this AI hype forward.
Yeah, and I want to follow up on that, because what you just said, again, speaking from a logical and rational perspective, like it's unsustainable. It is unsustainable resource-wise.
That's right.
It is unsustainable in the impact that it has on environments and humanity.
That's right.
And it is unsustainable financially, which oftentimes is meant to be the driving factor behind these conversations, right? How much money we'll get, what the jobs that will be produced. There are no jobs.
We're not getting the jobs. And
there are no jobs.
One thing they told us in Memphis is that XAI is coming with hundreds of jobs, right? They're going to be well-paying jobs. And you can trust that because this is the richest person in the world, right? On paper. And this is a new technology that's going to change everything. And what we've seen is AI be used to lay off folks.
To replace jobs.
To replace jobs. We've also seen Elon Musk specifically fire the majority of the Twitter staff and never restaff, right? So we have to look at the patterns that people are showing us, and the ignoring of these patterns, the ignoring of the real fallout is what continues to keep us in this loop that I believe is truthfully the linchpin in the extractive ecosystem.
Yeah. This is good. So talking a little bit more about the Memphis Data Center Ordinance, which mandates up to $100 million for neighborhoods within 5 miles of XAI.
That's right.
But residents in Southwest Memphis are still breathing the pollution. This does not take away from the environmental impact. So at a certain point, it starts to feel like hush money.
That's right.
It's starting to give like, you just want me to be quiet. Let me throw $100 million this way. What do you like? How do you personally grapple with that relationship, right? Because it is in some ways a victory for there to be compensation associated with the impact to them and their families and their health. And also, on the other side of this, it's realistically just meant to be a Band-Aid on a gaping wound.
Honestly, I mean, that's incredible framing. A bandage on a gaping wound is still not adequate. Right. And what I would say is that the community benefits ordinance that has been outlined by the city of Memphis that allows for a community advisory board to help assist with providing. Let me start that over. Okay. So the community advisory board is a part of the community benefits ordinance. And so the opportunity there is community governance of some sort, right? So we get some semblance of the people who are being most affected having a voice in how they are being not necessarily compensated for the harm, but being given this necessarily toolage to lessen the impact, right? Or even cope with what maybe a comorbidity that they already have. So, right. But this is just an opportunity for that. It's not a guarantee, right? And it is also far after the fact. It should have been on the front end, right? These negotiations should have happened with the community on the front end. And again, I would still argue that it's inadequate. The $100 million cap is completely insufficient when we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company. Easily. And when we continue to allow multi-billion-dollar companies to profit and our communities continue to suffer and our city continues to suffer, we have a budget that has been locked at the same level for over 10 years. We have a decline in population in the city of Memphis, and we are not getting money from billion-dollar corporations who continue to profit from being right here.
from the resources, from the land, off of the backs of people.
Right. Ultimately, it's extracting the life out of us. The community, my community in Southwest Memphis, that is right around these facilities, has one of the lowest life expectancies in all of Tennessee. Right. So our actual lives are being cut shorter because of it. The other piece to this is the community benefits ordinance has never been an opportunity to dismiss the harm. There is no amount of money that is going to bring my aunt back, or that is going to bring Granny Collier back, who just passed recently this year, right? These folks who had health issues, and we know the social determinants of health tell us that your environment plays a huge role
your zip code
in
is
how
one of
you
the
live.
Greatest indicators
That's
of
exactly
your life
right.
expectancy.
And so this acute exposure that we continue to feel and continue to breathe in of PM 2.5, which is what comes out of a lot of these facilities, and especially XAI, their facility increased our nitrogen dioxide levels by 79% in 1 year.
Wow.
Right? And so when you think about a financial incentive, there is no amount of money that is going to make
How do you repay that? It's like being like, how much do you think your life is worth? Give me a number.
That's it. We don't deserve to die, period. There is no amount of money that makes that okay. There is no amount of money that says you should be able to take the life out of the people in this area. But for too long, we continue to see folks pushed into sacrifice zones. And communities where majority black people live, where majority people of color live, where majority low wealth people live, continue to be selected as these sacrifice zones. So not only do we see this happen near Boxtown, right? We also see this happen in South Haven, where you have a lower wealth white population. And so this is intersectionality at its core.
Yeah.
Right? This is not targeting even specifically of black low wealth folks. This is just low wealth people.
Low wealth, generally.
Generally, right? So it's race and class. It's both. But where did it start, right? It started in the oldest black communities in the United States of America outside of Boxtown. And so we can't bifurcate the fact that these projects are proliferating around and targeting the most vulnerable communities that we have. And those are the people we have to step up for, and those are the people we have to protect. A community benefits ordinance is almost a step. I wouldn't even say it's a full step.
The smallest fraction toward the direction of what could be a step potentially.
That.
If anything.
That way. It is that. It is that. Only that, right? It is a whiff in a direction of aptitude that we know we need to get to.
Yeah.
And it's just not enough.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's not enough.
And I think this is so important, right? Hearing directly from a resident of a city.
I'm the chairman of the board.
Greatly, hello, hearing. I think it's so important, though, to hear directly from your mouth, from the mouths of those in your community and residents, because, okay, let's be real.
Yeah.
AI use is happening across the nation. We all know somebody who's using AI, right? And a part of what supports these institutions to be able to move the way they move is because, your mama, your auntie, your cousin, whomever are utilizing these sources in such a way, rather than how do we have real conversations? I ask this from your perspective as somebody who has personally been impacted, is a part of a community that is greatly impacted, and in recognizing that this is not an issue that is going away, right? That this is an expanding issue if we continue down the path and toward the trajectory that we are going right now.
Right.
This is an expanding issue that we say this consistently on the show. It will end up on your front porch, right? If it's not there today, it'll be there tomorrow. If it's not there tomorrow, give it a year. If it's not there next year, give it 2 more. It is coming toward all of our porch. So what do you say to someone, right, who is reckoning with the real life implications of what AI is, alongside man, this makes my life easier because now I don't got to write the outline for this paper that's due tomorrow?
Yeah. And it all comes down to what's being sacrificed. And we have a ton of research that shows the more you use AI, the more your cognitive abilities decline, right? We have studies that also show children's exposure to AI literally prevents them from developing different parts of the brain. And so when we think about any development, when we think about any new product, we also think about what's the cost.
Yeah.
Right? What is the actual cost?
Benefit analysis?
We have to think about what are those cognitive costs, but also what are the environmental costs when we look at water bankruptcy, right? Which is a real reality. When we look at the warming climate, this is not something that is going to make it to anybody's front door. It is already there. Our job is to really understand and recognize what our next steps are and can be. And what I believe that looks like is a semblance of governance across the planet to decide the future of this technology and how it will continue to impact our environment and our communities. But what is happening now is the most anti-democratic thing, is the most anti-community, anti-environment brigade against humanity. Literally against humanity. And we as a community, as a people, have to figure out what is our best next step. And for me, I believe it is complete governance around this technology. We've seen what has happened with the proliferation.
Because it almost doesn't exist.
That when we look at the past and we pay attention to how technology has infiltrated and designed curriculum, to be able to build out a pipeline of children, students, and folks in academia to one sector, which is the technology sector, which is now constricting. We have to, again, look at what was the cost of allowing this sector to create and do so much without any guardrails. Without any oversight, right? Without anyone saying, well, maybe more screens isn't better. Maybe we don't need more apps, right? And I'm sure there were people who said it, but they weren't ignored. And in this moment, we don't have an opportunity to ignore those voices. We have to heed them because calamity is actively happening. We just got more information about New Orleans that says it is sinking almost 200 football fields a day, right? Climate change and the reshaping of our planet is happening
right now.
What are we going to do to stop these data centers from continuing to accelerate that?
And I appreciate that framing of like, this isn't something that will be at your front porch, that it is on your front porch, right? That it's knocking at your door actively, because even sometimes in the framing, we forget what the current realities are, right? Because I saw something on social media the other day that was just talking about how there's constantly this idea that like, we're watching history be made in horrible, like, extremely frightening ways.
That's right.
We're watching history be made in the pullback of basic human rights. We're watching history be made in the banning of books, like historic numbers of books banned, of books removed from public school curriculum, of books that are no longer allowed to be discussed, like brought up in conversation. Teachers losing their job as a result of supporting like banned books or continuing to educate about issues that are being, like, we are watching history be made, and there seems to be this societal cue and almost like a desensitization to a certain extent, where there's a belief that, but they won't take it too far.
Right.
They are, but this is the boundary. It'll stop here. So
what I would say, and add to that, is that history is just replaying itself in real time in public. Right, we have seen the banning of books before, and we've seen the slave codes, and we've seen the black codes, and we've seen
Jim Crow laws,
and we have read about, been exposed to how, when slave revolts happened, they introduced new literacy laws, right? And so when we see the taking away of intellectual foundations and principles in science, that we are seeing a repeat. But how are we going to meet that moment, right?
And how do we react?
And that's the thing, is that we have to choose to react in a way that is appropriate, because we are actually seeing it encapsulated in real time.
Yeah.
When it happened originally, these folks this was something new. Mm-hmm. This is a repeat. Mm-hmm. And what do you do when you see the same thing again? Mm-hmm. Right? That determines really what your power is.
Yeah.
Because when you identify something and you know it's an issue, how do you address it when you see it again?
Yeah.
That shows the real growth. That shows the real change.
Yeah.
Growth in prosperity and growth measured in economics around who has what. That's not real growth. Growth is when you see civil rights being attacked the second time.
Can we react faster?
When you see education and literacy being attacked the second time,
How do we move?
That's the true measure of what I believe of growth. And the other piece I'll add quickly about how data centers are affecting everyone is that there's a parallel that is not really being talked about around the fossil fuel build out and the AI development and the data centers. And so it's harder to see, but if you pay attention, there is a continuous build out of fossil fuel infrastructure that accompanies a lot of this data center build out. And so that is happening everywhere. No matter where you live, you could be miles and miles away, but the build up and the build out of this fossil fuel infrastructure is in your backyard. And so whether you have a data center or not, the piping, the infrastructure is there, and it's all around us.
This is such good conversation. Like, and I have so many, like, I'm like, I have my cue cards here, but I'm like, okay, one more follow up to that point, right? Because when we talk about, like, how do you meet the moment,
That's
right?
right?
Because we so often, I feel like, and I think we've mentioned this before on the show, we talk about our historical figures, right? We talk about our MLKs, we talk about our Ella Bakers, we talk about
Happy Malcolm X Day.
Hello.
Happy Malcolm X Day.
We talk about our Fannie Lou Hamers. We talk about all of these historical figures who met the moment in their time, and we forget that you may be ours, right?
No, not maybe.
You are. You gotta be. It necessitates.
You are ours.
The time necessitates
literally
that you be ours, right?
Literally.
And not even necessarily to say for the sake of critical acclaim or fame or making the history books, but that they weren't looking for acclaim. They were meeting the moment, right? And so it's important that we be mindful, right? That nobody is going to walk up to your door, knock on your door, and pull you out to community to do the work that need be done, right? And we have to meet the work with the same vigor, with the same audacity.
That's right.
Because when I say the audacity,
literally, the courage. That's the word. The courage.
We have to meet justice with the same audacity that they meet bigotry.
That's right. Come on.
Like, that really is like that. You get me fired up.
Let's do it. Come on.
Because like that is the time that we're existing in right now. And if we forget, if we get so caught up, and if we continue to if we continue to exist in the mindset that somebody else will do it for me so I don't have to, then they will continue to plow forward. They are plowing forward.
Listen, my girlfriend is Rachel Payton. She's the senior communications director at dream.org. And she said there ain't gonna be no promo code to join the movement.
Come on now.
Right?
If you're waiting on the promo code, you missed it.
And it's just that simple, right? There's not a sign up newsletter, there's not a website. We have to intentionally do what we know is right. And that's how we meet the moment. But the truth is, it's on everybody. But what I'm encouraged by is the fact that I do see more people threading and talking about it. I do see more people in conversations and building in real life communities and really having the necessary conversations. We had Black women who organized multiple buses over multiple days to go to the Tennessee State House. Like, young people, right? And older and more seasoned veterans. But it's happening, right? And what I want people to know is we need you. That's it.
Yes. Yes. Each and every one of you. Okay, so let me bring us back.
Yeah.
So we were talking about these community benefit agreements, which are negotiated after a project is already approved. We talked about way after the fact. How can we flip this in line with what we're talking about in building individual power, right? Not just waiting for the promo code. How do we flip that process so that communities have real power before the project begins and not just a seat at the table after the fact?
So the way I think about it is this. The status quo is exploitation without collaboration. What has to change is community engagement and involvement on the front end. And what that can look like is folks who are over zoning, who have to approve the zoning for these huge projects, can set up regularly scheduled engagement and meetings with mayors and with these other officials to say, hey, large infrastructure that's coming in, could possibly have a huge impact on our community. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Right? From there, it gives the community an opportunity to engage with the information and then also build out a pathway of how to do things in a way that the community feels safe, feels seen, and feel like they are a part of the future. But that continues not to be the status quo, and that's something that has to change.
Yeah. And I think in line with that, it means slowing down, right? What's so interesting to me, especially in our current age, is I remember being in my AP Gov class in Grand Blanc High School way back when, not that long ago, but I remember learning about how slow government moves, right? You remember the bill? I'm just a bill. Yeah, I'm only a bill, right?
There we go.
They talked about how slow government process move, right? Because of red tape and because there are all these systems and there are all these processes. But when it comes time to build a data center, hello.
There we go.
When Elon knocks at your door and he look, these things move real fast.
Just a little bit over 100 days, and they got an entire data center up and running.
So the same speed at which we operate when it comes to the billionaires, the same speed at which we operate for industry needs to be given to community. Keep that same energy.
That's it. Treat us the same. Treat us the same.
Because if your constituents had the access to you that the billionaires do,
a lot would be different.
A lot would change.
Yes.
A lot would change. And so that being a great point, that just, it honestly is much more simple than it is made. That realistically, communities just, the same conversations that you come in and have after the fact when you're trying to slap a Band-Aid and, you're trying to pacify and now you want to, shake hands and kiss babies. If you could just have that same energy up front. Have these conversations. Hello. Okay, I'm gonna keep us going.
You see what I'm saying? I'm just saying. It's not that hard.
It's really not difficult.
It's not that hard.
Okay. So even though the fight in Memphis is local, as we've already discussed, these grassroots strategies can impact state and federal policy. In a lot of ways, we are seeing small scale actions be tested out locally across the South, right? Particularly in the South right now. We're seeing small scale movements be made at the local level and the state level as examples for others to use moving forward. Can you talk a little bit more about, in consideration of a public health lens? You talked a little bit about the intersection, about the trifecta that we're experiencing right now. Can you talk about grassroots strategies that can support and impact state and federal policy?
Yeah. So what I would say is all grassroots organizing, all grassroots politics, all roll up. And what I mean by that is that what we do on the ground level, what we do at the local level, is a direct influence on how things ladder up. Because in Memphis, for example, we fought against the sterilization services of Tennessee, a sterilizer that was putting in ethylene oxide into the air, spewing it out at levels that were far exceeding what the EPA said that was allowed. EPA also came back years later in 2018 and said, oh, actually, this chemical is worse than we ever thought it was, right? And so it's almost 60 times more toxic. And when you think about a carcinogen being 60 times more toxic, it should be immediately shut down. right? And so we work directly with Memphis Community Against Pollution, work directly with the EPA and our community in order to get a federal law passed. And so it made it more stringent for fugitive emissions of ethylene oxide. And so now you see an 80% decrease all across the country because of a fight that's happening in Memphis, Tennessee on the ground. And so when we think about how things ladder up, that's the way that it should work, is in collaboration with community at the national level, but it also has to involve local administrations, local politicians, other grassroots organizations, because we work in coalition, and that's how we push things forward. When you are able to prove and have a solid statement of work that can be replicated from the city level to the state level, it continues to ladder up. And once you continue to prove that what's working in Maine can work in Memphis, and what's working in Memphis can work in Georgia, right? Then we get to start to see the momentum build, and you see the health benefits, right, from reducing those emissions, is that you get cleaner air. Yeah. But you won't get cleaner air if we continue to allow data centers to proliferate, and we continue to allow folks like Elon Musk to run 46 methane gas turbines that continue to cause so much calamity and so much pollution. It completely erases the gains. Yeah. And so when we do think about how grassroots fight affect national policy, this is an example of where we have to change things.
Yeah, this is the breeding ground. And even when you talk about, because I'm just thinking about the person who is like, okay, so you telling me that I need to get active, okay? Yes. You telling me that there's something for me to do, that there won't be a promo code. You're telling me all these things. You're telling me it starts at the grassroots level. You're telling me that it starts local. Where do I start now? Yeah. Where do I start now? Because there is so much, right? Yeah. And it can feel overwhelming. You know, it can feel overstimulating. I know 100%. We were talking about Ella's song, "We Who Believe in Freedom Cannot Rest," okay? But I'm sleepy. Yeah, okay, yeah. And so for our other folks, our other folks who out there who are like, all right, I want to make a difference. Yeah. I want to rise to the occasion. I want to meet the moment, and I understand that it starts at the grassroots level. How can they begin to be active in their communities? And I know it'll look different community by community, but what are some examples that you could give?
Yeah, the first thing I would say, I'm a person of faith, and I'm a Christian, and so if there is a church, find a church.
One of the greatest organizing bodies,
literally,
in movements.
Literally, the infrastructure of civil rights movement was through the Black church, right? And so these are our institutions. And so when I think about being involved, you want to be involved with your institutions, the schools in your area, right? And then
the school boards,
the city council. The city council show up to these meetings because they don't expect you to be there, right? Send the email, make the phone call. These folks don't expect that to happen. And so these are things that you can do any day, every day. And for what I believe is the best benefit to anybody is to find something that you're interested in. I'm sure there's a nonprofit that would love to have the extra hands, the extra heart, the extra mind that you could bring to the table.
That's absolutely accurate. And I appreciate, because there is so much, there's something for everyone to put their hands to, right? I spent quite a bit of time working with the Flint Freedom Schools Collaborative. Shout out to the FFSC and Flint. I spent a lot of time working with them as a fund development coordinator. And one of the things that I prided myself on in my time with them is that there wasn't anybody that could approach me in a room and ask me for something to do for that organization and I not have a list. Like, oh, you can show up and do this. You can show up and do this. You can show up and do this. And that is true for so many of our local nonprofit organizations. So not reducing the impact that our community-based organizations have, right? Like putting your hands and your mind, your treasure
and your heart
behind our community-based organizations, right? Like even the difference, we began this conversation speaking shortly about the legacy of your family. family, the difference it makes to engage in constructive, brave, courageous conversation with your siblings, with your cousins, with your auntie, engaging in conversation about AI, simply talking about, like, you know, we all know somebody. We all know somebody. Even if it's just one.
Somebody.
It's usually not just one. Right. But even if it's just one, we all know somebody who is just generally uneducated or ignorant or just unclear.
They're just unaware. And what I would say is that there are at least 5, right? Everybody got a group chat. And what happens, though, is that we hold things when we should share them, right? And so the 5 closest people to you, that group chat that you're in, they should know that you care about this. They should know what your thoughts are. But too often we hold these things to ourselves until we find somebody that we know, is right there with us.
And will agree.
And will agree, right? And we don't always need agreement. We need conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of folks have space to be able to grow, and myself included. And, I got cousins that I've been texting just this past week, like, y'all, we gotta really get folks out to vote. And so we really need your support. But in the same way, we talk about AI, we talk about data centers, because truthfully, the folks closest to you still have questions. And if you're the expert, why not share with them?
And it will make a bigger difference coming from you than it will coming from me.
That's right.
Or coming from KeShaun, or coming from Justin,
That's
or coming from any great figure. It means so much greater to your loved ones.
That's right.
To hear your thoughts on a matter, because you've built relationship with them, right? And so not underestimating the difference that even our interpersonal connections make, right? Because sometimes we reduce civil rights and engagement and civic engagement and community engagement to the things that you could post on social media.
Yes.
Right? It's not just the march.
No.
It never started at the march, right?
It never started at the march.
It never started
It started
at the
in the living room.
Hello?
Right? It started with these conversations in person with people that they knew.
Yes, with folks who disagree. And even uplifting how integral it is in our time right now.
That's so true.
With the siloing of issues, with the polarization of people, with the partisanship that is happening on human issues, right? It is strategic.
Yes.
And so it's so important that we not just even be thoughtful. If you want to take it a step further, not just having conversations with the folks that are in your group chat, with the folks that are in your living room, but having conversation with your neighbor across the street. Right? With your cousin, who you know is a little different. Right? Because those are
with
the
people that you know voted different.
Yes.
I know you voted different, but let me still have a conversation.
Let's talk about it.
Quick example.
Yeah.
We was in Montgomery. And we met a gentleman who was actually from like the Northeast and who had moved down. Well, he didn't move. He just was visiting and took himself on a civil rights tour of the South, right? This white male, about almost 60 years old, if not 60, and was a conservative, staunch conservative. But we had a great dialogue about what actually matters, and what people are looking for when they think about economics, when they think about safety, and when they think about the future and how to feed their families. And we have a lot more in common than we think. And the truth is, we don't have to agree on everything to understand basic humanity.
That's good. That's too good. I know we're running short on time. Okay, next question.
My bad.
Black and brown neighborhoods have been told for generations that pollution is the price of progress with jobs, tax revenue, and development. What would it look like to finally reject that premise entirely? And is that even possible under the system we have now?
Yeah. So first, I think the status quo continues to uphold the fact that some areas have to be sacrifice zones in order for corporate profits to persist. I completely reject that premise, and I think we have more than enough information that shows us that when we invest in people, not corporations, that we see more returns. Right? Greater returns and greater human experience. And so in this day and age, where I believe we have to go and where we have to move to is understanding that the pollution can be reduced. We are in the most sophisticated society in all of human history, right? And so there is no excuse for the proliferation of pollution. We have too many other options that are so much better for our environment and so much better for our community. And we are in a place where we are innovative enough to figure out the healthiest way to build these things. But we have to decenter corporate profits. Corporate profits cannot be our motivation in order to move forward. We have to focus inward, and it has to be more humane.
Yes, and we have to think about, at the end of the day, what kind of person do you want to be, right? What kind of society, what kind of environment do you want to leave behind? There was an episode several seasons ago, and I bring it up so often because I just felt it was so profound. One of our guests was talking about an indigenous principle that you want to prepare the earth for 7 generations to follow.
That's right.
7 generations to follow. And so often we're so short-sighted. We're so short-sighted even to just think like preparing it for our children or preparing it for our grandchildren. Imagine what the world would be like if we as a society would decide, because I believe strongly that culture is what we make it.
That's it.
Because we talk about, well, society is, and, you know, this is where we are, and this is just the way it is, and this is the way it was when our parents were. I spent some time working with the Flint Public Health Youth Academy, and we did there was a summer where we focused on racism as a public health crisis. One of the most upsetting findings that we had, at least to me, one of the most upsetting findings that we had in speaking to youth that ranged from, let's say, about 12 to 18 years old, was that many of them felt that racism would not change in their lifetime. Already in the ages of 12 to 18, felt that there was nothing that they could do to change racism because that's just the way that it is, right? And it is so easy when you have known a thing to be the way that it is, and this is the way it was when my mama was alive, and this is the way, you know, in my mom's generation, and my grandma's generation, and my great-grandma's generation. It is easy to believe these things as 100%. A fact.
Yeah.
It is easy to believe racism as a fact. It is easy to believe oppression as a fact. It is easy to believe capitalism as a fact. It is easy to believe that these are things that, like, the learned helplessness, that this is just the way the world is. And that is a decision that we make. And it's a decision we can reject.
And what has happened, and what we continue to see even in Memphis, is that our public institutions follow that same learned helplessness, right? This non-acquiescence of, well, we can't do anything about it. We can't do anything to help you, right? But we've invited these polluters here. We've allowed this to proliferate, but we can't help you, right? We had our own Shelby County Health Department literally represent themselves and XAI against the community, who's literally saying, stop the pollution. And our own health department is saying, is fighting with and for XAI, right? And so that idea reshaping has to happen on a personal level and transcend into our public institutions.
Yes, at a system level, it is time. The time is now. The time was yesterday. The time was years ago for us to really have conversations about what we need to tear down.
That's right.
Because at this point, it's no longer about adjusting.
Come on.
We need to stop editing. We need to stop putting makeup on a pig.
That's it.
All right?
Some stuff got to go. Period.
Some stuff just needs to go.
It gotta go.
Because certain things, certain ideologies were built in such a way to cause suffering.
That's right.
Right? Like, and we just gotta call a spade a spade. Some things were created for suffering, right? We have to go back to the history and the foundations of our nation, which was predominantly formed to benefit white land-owning men.
Listen, when you think about the history of the country, when you think about what's happening right now, right, it is imperialistic in nature. It's colonizing all across our country, but it's corporations who are doing it, and these corporations are led by wealthy white men, right? The same thing happened all throughout the history of this country. wealthy white men got to decide who lived, who died, what businesses do well,
who had access,
what don't, who has access, and who has the ability to affect change, right? But where we are here situated in this moment is where we have to break down those ideas around imperialistic actions and the colonizing way of being. This ain't how we gotta be. We don't have to be or show up or live like this. There is an alternative, and we can build it together. We will build it together. But there are structures, institutions, ideals that have to be destroyed in order for new ideas and ways of being to grow.
You have to make room,
That's it.
Look, I was raised in the church, and we used to say, my blessing will make room for me. Okay?
That's it.
So sometimes we just have to make room.
That's it.
You don't got no space for the new because it's too much old in there.
That's it.
All right?
That's it.
Okay, we're coming close to the close, and I feel so sad about it because I'm so fired up. I hope y'all are fired up.
Fired up, ready to go.
We are coming close to the close to another great episode with the one, the only KeShaun Pearson. But before we leave, we always like to offer an opportunity. And I always say, if they didn't hear anything, which I hope you heard everything, I hope you heard every single thing. But if they don't leave with anything else, right? We live in the digital age, and attention spans are short.
That's all
right. So if they don't leave with anything else, what is it that you want our audience to hear?
Woo, that's heavy.
I'll give you 2. No.
Right. Well, if you didn't hear nothing else, what I hope folks walk away knowing is that they can affect change right where they are by stepping up and meeting the moment. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, you can actually make change real, and it is going to cost you something. But just know, you are not alone in that, and if we are going to change the world in a positive way, we need your help.
That's so good. Well, y'all heard it here, folks. We're so glad to have had you here, KeShaun. So excited about the work that you're doing in Memphis. Tell the folks I say hey.
Will do.
We are so excited also to see you all right back here next time, this time next month. Looking forward to it. Bye.